Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I will do something a bit different than I normally do on my channel. I will make a more improvised video here where I haven't written any script for what I'm going to say. So that's a bit anxiety provoking. I don't know what the right word is because now I have to improvise. And when I'm not speaking English every day, that can be a bit, I have to think more about what I'm going to say, since I'm Danish and I'm not used to speaking English every day. But today I want to talk about my top 5 favorite TV series of all time. And it may be a bit lazy video, but it was just something I've thought about. And to do that, I'm going to talk about 5 very different series. I think most of them a bit older, but they all means a lot to me in different ways, I think. And before I start my ranking, I want to talk about about TV series in general. And here in the modern days, you can clearly see that there are so many TV series out of streaming on streaming services, and I think there's too many of them in that. And what I mean about that is that I can't follow them anymore. I think because so many streaming nowadays, people recommend different stuff to each other, and some of them are on Netflix, some of them on HBO Max, and some on Amazon Prime and whatever, Disney Plus also. I watch some of them and some of them I don't watch, so I'm a bit, maybe a little, I don't follow all of them, but I did sort of follow some of the more popular ones in the last 10 to 15 years. I've watched Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones. I watched the first 3 seasons of House of Cards, True Detective, Fargo. What was there? Mayor of Easttown, Fleabag. I've watched a lot of them, and I've actually enjoyed a lot of those. But they are not on my list because they are more because I don't feel maybe a sense of a connection to them like some of the other ones I'm going to talk about here. But I enjoy a lot of these series, I just want to say. And starting off on my number 5 on my list, that is a Danish series called Klovn, which is in English Clown, and it follows like 2 friends, Kasper Christensen and Frank Hvam, and they are always in trouble. They always make stupid decisions, and they always goes in a more what's the right word, a bit embarrassing situations. It's a series that is very popular in Denmark, and also think some places in Europe and maybe America it's popular, but in Denmark it's very very famous. But this series is, I think the first season was in 2004 or 5, I can't remember exactly, and it still continues even to this day. They have also made 3 movies, which I also really like, especially the last one. And I think it's, in terms of Danish comedy, it's the best. I really like their sort of ideas to getting into embarrassing situations. Some of it can be a bit too much, and there are of course some episodes that are not the best, but overall it's an incredible, funny and unique series, I think. And I don't know if many in the in Europe or America or Asia, where if you're watching this video, if you can get this. But I will really recommend it if someone likes a bit more nasty cringe comedy where it just goes wrong every time. It's a very funny series, and I think they are comedic geniuses, Casper Christensen and Frank Wham. Yeah. And now I go to my number 4, and that is a more newer series, and I've talked about it in one video, very short. It's the Netflix series Mindhunter, and it's the David Fincher produced series, and that is and now I can talk a little bit more in not in detail, but how I feel about it, because they're not going to continue the series. They stopped the series after 2 seasons, and they have confirmed it, even David Fincher himself. And it's a shame. I really want to see 5 seasons, but there wasn't enough audience to watch it, I guess. So even though it was very popular, but anyway, I still think it's such a great show. The first 2 seasons, it's incredibly acted. It is well written. It tells a lot about the time periods of the 70s and the early 80s. It has these, and it knows how to be a great drama, even just in dialogue scenes, because there isn't any action scene or very, very dramatic things that happens. Of course, there's dramatic stuff, but it's much under the surface. It's about the conversations between the police and the serial killers. Their conversations, you start to discover what really happens in the crime situations, and because this is actually based on real serial killers, then it makes it more scary, I think, because even though the officers are fictional, we know that these things did happen back in the days, and I think it is just thought-provoking, because I think people have always been fascinated about serial killers, even though we are very scared of them, and it's a terrible situation. What was the right word? Serial killers does some of the most nasty things you hear about, and therefore it's also a bit fascinating why people like to watch these kind of series or movies that has been made of them. I don't know what. It's difficult to explain why, but I just think when you watch Mindhunter, it's like almost a conversation between us as the audience and the serial killers themselves. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just think Mindhunter has so much potential, and I don't really get why. I still don't really get why it won't continue into further seasons, because it is very popular series. But if there isn't enough audience, I don't know what more to say. But it is an incredible series. And the thing about David Fincher is that I didn't like his earlier works, actually, from Alien 3, of course he wasn't that keen on that himself, but 7, Fight Club, The Game, I don't like these movies that much. They're very well made and well stylish, but I thought the plot of them was very ordinary and boring. I didn't like the characters, didn't like the feeling of them. They are not bad movies, but I didn't feel anything for them. I didn't like his movie Panic Room as well. So it was first when Zodiac came, I sort of felt like, oh, this is a good movie. Maybe it isn't totally fulfilled. I don't know what the right word is. I don't think it had a great conclusion in the end. but it was a good movie. And then he made The Social Network, which I think was very good. He directed the 2 first episodes of House of Cards and produced the series, I think. And the first season is really great of House of Cards, if you have never watched that. Also think the 3rd season was very great. I don't know why I stopped, but it's a very depressing series, so sometimes you have to have a break. I want to continue to watch that series again, even though the last seasons didn't get the best praise in the world. But I think it's the first 3 seasons of House of Cards is really good. And David Fincher was not responsible for the series, but he was setting the tone for the series. And he made Gone Girl, which I think in many ways is a very, very good thriller. Also a bit Hitchcockian, and I like that. And it has Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike, the lead actress and actors. And I'm not a big fan of them as actors, but they work actually quite well in this movie. And Gone Girl is a really good movie. Then he made, of course, and then he produced and directed a lot of episodes of Mindhunter, and that was an incredible series, the best he has ever done. And I still think it's one of the best series of all time, even though it only has 2 seasons. And it could probably been in top 3 if it had been fulfilled more, if there were 5 seasons, but who knows. Yeah, but I think he has matured a lot, David Fincher, and he's more focused on what he wants to tell in his stories, I think. Also think his movie Mank, even though it was a bit split in the audience didn't necessarily, it was loved by the one side and hated by the other side, I think. But I was more in the middle. I thought it was pretty good movie, Mank. But what I want to say is that he's really become one of the directors in Hollywood. I still want to see what he makes next. Yeah. Coming off to my number 3, and here I want to say my top 3 is like they are my favorite series, top 3 series of all time, and I think I could easily change this list from now on. I think even this what I want to talk about now, I've even said in one earlier video that it is my favorite series of all time, so it changes a lot. It is Fawlty Towers. I have this old DVD box set by it. I don't know why I don't have the Blu-ray, but this is just the best sitcom series of all time, written by John Cleese and Connie Booth, his former wife, and it has some of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in anything, I think. Great characters, Basil Fawlty, Manuel, the Major, Sybil, Polly, and some really great guest stars. I can't necessarily pick a favorite, but I really like the episode. It's the what is it called? The wedding party, or is it the wedding? This is in Danish, so I can't remember what it's called in English. But I think it's the wedding party or the wedding in the first season. That series and that episode and the one in the season 2, the psychiatrists. Why can't I pronounce it? Never mind. But those 2, I think, are my 2 favorites in the episodes. But so I love pretty much all of them. If you have never watched the series before, I would highly recommend it. I do want to say though that the first 2 episodes of Fawlty Towers, they are not the best. They're not bad episodes, but I don't think they are as funny. I remember when I can still remember the first time I watched them. I thought was that because my parents talked about how great this series was, and I watched them. I thought, oh yeah, they were okay, but the funniest thing. But then the 3rd episode came, and then I was completely blown away. And I've loved every other episode of the series. Maybe not the Walter Salad episode. That's not the best, but they have a really high level of entertainment. Credible funny. You know, I still sometimes jokes about. I quote some of their dialogue scenes. You know, when Manuel says "K" all the time, and the episode with the psychiatrist when he says she's crazy, you want to see the girl, or something like that. I always laugh incredible. I've seen them so many times. I don't know if it's 20 or 30 times I've seen some of these episodes, except the two first. But it's such a funny sitcom series. And I wish there were more episodes back in the days. Now I know they're going to reboot it, and I'm a bit split about that, but maybe it will be good. But anyway, it deserves to be watched. And the thing about Fawlty Towers is that it has a story. You know, John Cleese also made, of course, Monty Python with his other group. And I like some Monty Python stuff, but overall I found that to be a bit too silly, because they don't always have something to necessarily a meaning about them. And I think every episode in Fawlty Towers sort of have a meaning, they have a story, they have a purpose. Monty Python, I'm not always sure they have a purpose. I just think they want to make some silly jokes. Some of them works incredibly well, don't get me wrong. There's some really good Monty Python stuff, especially in, of course, in the series, but also in some of the movies, especially in The Life of Brian. I think they have some really great stuff there. And I love the song Always Look at the Bright Side of Life. That's a great song, by the way. But I still prefer Fawlty Towers much more than Monty Python. John Cleese has made a lot of great stuff. Also A Fish Called Wanda, a really good movie also. But still, Fawlty Towers is the best. I love also the title melody in the opening, that theme. That's great. I can't really. It's incredible, even though some of it has become a bit controversial in the modern days of society, when you have the episodes with the German, and I still find that episode very great. Maybe it's a bit slow in the beginning, but it really kicks off in the end. And I don't. You shouldn't judge the series. You shouldn't delete anything of them. You don't have to like it. But I think you have to keep them, because they were made back in the days where it was where you make these things and it wasn't meant to be taken seriously. It was just meant to have fun, you know. And I sometimes I don't like the modern day of society where everything has to be judged, even if you make a joke about anything, you know. And sure, there are some jokes I can be offended about. I can think, what the fuck is these people talking about? And I don't like it. I can be offended, but that's the point, you know. Then I am offended about it, but I don't want them to be cancelled or deleted. That's just stupid. I don't get the hate. Just if you don't like it, don't like it. And I you know, there's stuff I don't like of comedies, but to sort of cancel everything that you be offended about, I don't understand that thing. But that's another conversation. Fawlty Towers is the best sitcom series of all time, in my opinion, and it's really worth a watch. You have to watch it. That's simple. All right. Number 2. And this I have talked a lot about on my channel. If you have watched some of my other videos, I don't know. I don't have many subscribers of anything. But if you have watched some of them, you will know what I'm going to talk about. It is Columbo himself, Peter Falk, the legend. You know, Peter Falk, he was such a great actor. I think he was underrated. Sometimes I hear people say something. I mean, he was just Columbo. No, he wasn't. He wasn't just Columbo. He was an incredible actor. He also he was in Mickey and Nicky, and he was in he has a short scene. What is was the one in Berlin? I can't remember. Wings of Desire. Is it that what's called? I can't remember the director, but the more artsy movie. Oh, I can't remember. It's many years ago I have seen that, but he has a small part. So not that he's that it isn't his best work or anything, but of course Columbo is his best work. But he could act really. He was incredible actor, and you can just his performance. He has so much mimic, and he could play with his facial expression. Yes, he was terrific, and Columbo has so many great episodes. And here I'm talking about the 70s stuff. I tried to watch some of the newer ones, but I couldn't get through all of them. I thought some of them were very boring. There was one of them that was really good, but I can't remember what that was called. But overall, it's the 70s we're talking about. Or also Prescription Murder from 1968. That is also a great TV movie. One I want to review one day. I simply don't have time for it now. I sort of have stopped making Columbo videos because for me Columbo is something I watch in the autumn and winter time, and I now in the spring and summer I don't want to watch it. It's not that I still love Columbo, don't get me wrong. It's just it's a bit like you watching a Christmas movie at summertime. It doesn't work, and Columbo is feeling more about darkness, and then you want something to comfort you in the dark, if that makes sense. Columbo is a terrific crime series. It has humor, but it also has some serious moments, and I think it's incredibly well written, especially in the first, in the 70s, the whole 70s. But in some of the later seasons, there were some bad ones that wasn't the best. But the first 4 seasons especially was incredible. Or maybe it was more like the season 1 is incredible. Then I think season 2 is good, are very good. But there are some moments in season 2 I'm not so keen on. Season 3 is a little better than season 2, and then season 4 is incredible as well. Season 4 is probably it's not my favorite, but it's probably the most. I think it's the best season, even though myself prefer season 1. But the thing about it is season 1 has the one episode, what is called the one I can't remember it right now, the one with the boy, no, not the boy, the one that the episode that was Short Fuse. I had to look it up in my Columbo file, the greatest book about Columbo ever written. Yeah, Short Fuse is not the best episode. It's okay actually. It had Roddy McDowall, a really great actor. But the episode, the crime itself and the solution in the end, I'm not so keen on. It's okay. It's not bad, but I think that's the only bad thing about season 1 is that episode. And I think in season 4, all episodes has great rewatchability and great plots. The weakest of them, I think, is the first one, and Exercise in Fatality. That's the worst episodes in season 4, but I still think it's very good. But I just think the other ones is really great. So that's the thing about season 4. But season 4 and season 1 are incredible. I also think season 5 goes a bit down, but it has some really great moments, especially in now you see him with Jack Cassidy, the best Columbo villain, and season 6 is this 3 episode that is in season 6, isn't it? That's maybe the weakest one because there's only 3 episodes. But then season 7, I actually think is very. Is it season 7? I can't remember. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah, it is the 7th season. I think the 7th season is really good as well. It stops on a high note, I think, but it has some bad episodes. I'm not so keen on Make Me a Perfect Murder, or what it's called. But I'm not so keen on that. But otherwise, I think it's very good. The last one, Conspirators. Is it that how you pronounce it? The Conspirators. That's a really great episode. I think a great way to end the series. But the thing about the last season, a small criticism I have for the last season of the 70s is actually Peter Falk's performance. And I praised him, and he's great always. It's not that he delivers bad performances, but it is the way the character Columbo is portrayed is a bit more goofy and silly. I think he was more serious in the earlier ones, and I think he becomes a bit more over the top. And also in the later seasons when they returned, he was also a bit more silly in some of them. And again, it's not his performance, but it's the way the characters handle. It's also the script writing or the producers. I think it was something about one of the producers wanted him to be a bit more silly or something about it. I thought that was very stupid, because when you make Columbo silly, you don't really buy that he can make this. He can be so clever, and I think that the earlier ones portray him with much more nuances in his character, because he's not a silly character by any means. He's he's just manipulating the villains so they think he's stupid, but he isn't. But in the later ones, I felt they were just making him goofy just to be goofy, and I thought that was a shame, because then the humor also disappeared. There's much more humor in the earlier ones, but still, from all the 70s has a pretty high standards of quality. Really great TV, and listen. In some ways, Columbo is my favorite series, but the thing about it is every episode has its own story, and because there are so many episodes, you can't just have great episodes. There are some not so good ones, and I have to admit that there are some bad Columbo episodes, but I still love Columbo. I'm passionate about Columbo. Columbo is like my hero in some ways. It's like that's the character I sort of want to be in some ways, because he isn't thinking about what other people thinks about him, and that's just what I like about it. And he has humor, and he's smart, and he always wins in the end. And there are some very really well written and episodes, and the actors that there are in them, Jack Cassidy, Donald Pleasance, and Vera Miles, and even Johnny Cash. How iconic is that? Dick Van Dyke, they have so many great actors in Columbo, especially from the 70s again. And I could talk about Columbo all day. And again, one day I want to review some of them again, but for now on, I simply don't feel for it. So if someone has watched some of the other ones and wants to watch more of my Columbo, I will return one day with them. But I don't know when. Maybe in the autumn, maybe not. I don't know. But I want to talk about them, but more separate. I want to focus on especially Prescription Murder. I want to talk about, because that was the first time we watched him. I also want to talk about Now You See Him, and what's the one with Donald Pleasance? Any Old Port in the Storm. Is that what it's called? Isn't it? Yeah, Any Old Port in a Storm. That was what's called. Great episodes. And when you have to rewatch them to make a review, you want the good ones. I don't really want to discuss the bad ones so much. There has at least to be good. But there's at least 3 episodes I want to talk about. Maybe there will be a 4th one also, but I don't know. I don't know when it will be. But I love Columbo so much. It's for me like it's a bit like Hitchcock is for movies. Hitchcock, the great director, he means a lot to me as a movie director, and even he made some not so good movies, but I still love him. And that's the thing about Columbo. There are bad episodes, but then there are some terrific ones. And yeah, I love Columbo. But now we have to talk about my favorite series, and again, I don't know if it is my favorite series. I could also say Columbo were my favorites of Fawlty Towers was. But for now, it is because this is my favorite story of all time. It is Pride and Prejudice. And some of you are probably thinking, what the hell? I'm 23 years old, by the way. A 23-year-old man watching Pride and Prejudice from 1995. What the hell is wrong with you? That's just a silly romance story. No, it isn't. Yeah, there's romance in it, but it is an incredible story. You know, the thing about it, Jane Austen, she was an incredible writer. Even though a lot of them have a lot of the same elements to them, I admit that they have. But listen, she could write even for her standards back in the days. She writes with very modern language, and they are very easy to read. But I think Pride and Prejudice is her greatest work. I have the book here on Danish. Incredible writer, and I've watched. I haven't read. I have to be honest. I haven't read all of her stuff, but I have tried to watch, and I haven't watched all movies about her work. I also have to admit that. But I've watched a lot of movies based on her work, and some of them are pretty good. But they still can't keep up with Pride and Prejudice from 1995. That is the best adaptation of any book, in my opinion. I just love it. Sometimes it's difficult to explain why, but I think everyone is incredibly casted in this. Colin Firth as Mr. Darcy and Jennifer Eel as Miss Bennet. The parents are also terrific, and my favorite characters or the portrayal of the characters in this is what is his name again? The one who plays Mr. Collins. He is incredible. That is such an incredible performance. I can't remember his name. That's stupid of me. But the actor who plays him is incredible. He was also in the TV series Rome. I don't know if some of you have watched Rome. I haven't finished that series. That's one of my shames, I have to be honest. I watched the first season, but I never got to the second season. And but he is in Rome as well. But Mr. Collins in this is the best portrayal of Mr. Collins in any adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. That's just my opinion, of course, but I still believe it. And I think all the actors here is incredible. And let's talk about Pride and Prejudice for a moment, because I've also watched the other adaptations of them, or not all of them. I think there was some from the 60s. I haven't watched that. I don't think you can watch the whole thing. And that's probably some other one. I didn't watch the zombie movie. Was it a zombie movie? I didn't watch that. But I watched the 1940s version, the Hollywood movie, with Laurence Olivier. And what's her name? I love her as an actress as well. Greta, what is her name? Oh, Jesus Christ, I can't remember her name. That movie's pretty fun, but that's a comedy. It's a good comedy. It's not the greatest adaptation of the Pride and Prejudice, but it's my second favorite adaptation. Because at least it's a good movie. I think it's very funny, but it's not. I would more see it as a romantic comedy than it's a Pride and Prejudice adaptation. But it is a good movie. If you have watched that, let me know what you think of that, by the way, because I know it splits hardcore Jane Austen fans. But I just watch it as a fun old movie. Then there's the 1980s version, BBC also, and that I think that is not bad, but it's very stiff and a bit boring. I don't think it has this sense of humor than that this has, and also as the book has. It is just very stiff. But I can understand some people would like that, but because it is true to the source material, I just don't find it very entertaining. And then there's the 2005 movie. Directed by Joe Wright, isn't it? What his name is? That movie I have a lot of problems with, I have to be honest. And I know it has some fans, and that's fine. It has some good things. Let's talk about the good things about that movie. The score is pretty good, great cinematography, And the one who plays Mr. Darcy, who's also in the series Succession. Succession is also a good TV series, but I can't remember his name. But he is he does a great Mr. Darcy, and the mother in that version is also pretty good. But the rest of the cast is awful. Even though a great actor like Donald Sutherland is so bad as Mr. Bennet, but the worst sin is Keira Knightley as Elizabeth Bennet. Jesus Christ, Keira Knightley. She is, I don't know what it is, but she's pretty. All right, she's pretty. She's famous. I know that. I don't mind Keira Knightley as a person. I think she looks like a nice person. She does, but she's a terrible actress. I don't know. I don't understand why people want to cast Keira Knightley. It's the same with Natalie Portman. Terrible actress, I think. Okay, Natalie Portman, I would give her credit. She when she played Jackie Kennedy in the movie Jackie. That was actually okay. So maybe she has evolved a bit, but alright. Those two men, Jesus Christ, they are not great actresses in my opinion. Pretty, kind people. I'm sure they are nice. If they're watching this and think I'm stupid, listen. Nothing against you. I think you seems like good persons, but I just don't like you as actresses. All right. Sorry if I offend someone here, but I think they are terrible actresses. And Keira Knightley as Elizabeth Bennet is so stupid, and she's so awful in this. Oh, Jesus Christ. But so, yeah, I have a lot of issues with that movie for 2005. I don't like Rosamund Pike as well. As Jane. Jesus Christ again. Sorry if I offend someone. But I can't stand her. The one who played what is the sister, Mrs. There's Mr. Bingley and is it Mrs. Bingley? His sister, I forgot the name. They are also terrible. I don't know what did make them cartoonish and caricatures. And sure, if you look at Pride and Prejudice, there are some kind of caricatures in them. I have to be honest, Mr. Collins, it can be a caricature. The mother, Elizabeth's mother as well. But I think the thing about the 90s version here is that I think they made them more human. I think the actors knew how to play them, and I didn't think the 2005 version they knew anything about the source material. I think it was something about Joe Wright, the director. I've never even read the book before he said yes to direct this. I thought that was silly. You have to at least know the stuff you are directing. Maybe I'm wrong about it, but I think it was something about he read the book when he was offered the director, when he was offered to be the director for the movie, and then he read the book, and that's fair, you read the book there, but I still think they have to at least, if someone has to direct a movie based on a work, they has to at least know the source material a bit more, so you don't just have read it and then you direct it. That's just my opinion. But listen, the 90s version, what is the screenwriter Andrew Davies? He has made great adaptations. He also did some more Jane Austen stuff, but I also think the British version of House of Cards, he was responsible for that as well. He has a great understanding on Jane Austen because he knows where Jane Austen has some problems in her writing. For example, the male characters. He wanted to explore the male character a bit more than she does, because I've seen an interview with him when he says something about that you always hear from the female perspective of the male characters, and he wanted to sort of have some moments where you sort of see what Mr. Darcy see when he sees Elizabeth. For example, when he's in the shower and he looks out the window and he sees them in the woods, and you sort of you understand Mr. Darcy in this version maybe a bit better than you do in the book. And Colin Firth is exceptional in the role. Incredible actor. Colin Firth can be an incredible actor. He's also in some very bad movies, I have to be honest, but he is a great actor when he knows how to act. in some great stuff. For example, he's good in this, and he's also incredible in. I don't want to call it The King's Speech because that's a movie I don't want to talk about. But the A Single Man, directed by Tom Ford. That's an incredible movie, by the way. If you've never watched A Single Man, you have to watch that. That's one of my for the last 25 years. That's one of my favorite movies, actually. Colin Firth as well. That's maybe I should review that movie one day. But he's incredible as Mr. Darcy. He knows how to play him. He knows to play the more ruthless Mr. Darcy, the one who has a lot of prejudice and is a pride man, and can be that little, not disgusting, that's a shameful word of me to use, but he knows to play him when he's a bit more arrogant. But he also knows how to play him charming. And that's the thing, the 80s version, I didn't think that version of Mr. Darcy, he just played him too much arrogant, I think. Colin Firth knew how to play the different sides of Mr. Darcy. And Mr. Darcy is, for me, a very complex character. There's a lot of characters in Pride and Prejudice that I think there's much more nuances than people think. Even though it's a romantic story and you know how it sort of ends in the end. I don't think I have too much issues with the 1990s version of Pride and Prejudice. If I could say something, a small nitpick I have with the series is in the last episode when Elizabeth Bennet and Lady Catherine de Bourgh are walking in the garden, and I thought the way it's directed, I think it's a bit stiff there. It looks very amateurish. I don't like how it is shot and edited together. It feels a bit too long. I don't think it has pace. The series is not a bad scene, don't get me wrong. I don't hate the scene, don't get me wrong. But I just feel like, I've always felt that scene is a bit awkwardly made. I don't know what it is, but just feel it's too stiff when they walk in the garden. There isn't any great location. They couldn't make it more cinematic or have some more better background. And I didn't like the way that was edited or shot. But that's just a nitpick. It's incredible series. A wonderful BBC series, and again, I only have it on DVD, and I don't know what it is about me. My 3 favorite series of all time: Pride and Prejudice, Fawlty Towers, and the Columbo himself. All of them I have on DVD, but not on Blu-ray. What is wrong with me? I don't know. I should have them on Blu-ray, but I simply I don't, and that's stupid. But to be honest, the Columbo series, I think it is only recently I read it was going to be on Blu-ray, so I don't think I could have bought it on Blu-ray earlier. Maybe it was only the first season. I remember I've seen a Blu-ray version of the first season, but I don't think the whole box set. So now I've talked a lot about some series, and I think maybe too much, and maybe I should not talk anymore because I'm also a bit tired in my voice now. I don't think if someone has watched the whole thing, I admire you for that, because it will be a bit long, I guess. Anyway, I am glad I could make something a bit different, talk to you as me, not just behind some script and some pictures. Now you see me how I look like and you hear me improvise a bit more. I'm sorry if my pronunciation of some of the English words a bit wrong, also in my other videos, because I have to speak a bit more English. I like speaking English. Last year I was in Bournemouth in England for a little over 6 weeks, and I was on a language school there where I sort of practices my English. That was a great experience. I really love the British people, and I want to go back there one day. And I think I've evolved my English over time, but I still, when you don't speak it every day, it can be a bit rough. But I really like to make these kind of videos, and I actually want to talk a bit more like this more often, because the other ones, sometimes, the thing about it, I'm also studying. I'm studying to become a teacher, and that takes time. I have reading stuff there, and some it just takes more of your energy and focus. There was one time I want to make 2 videos every week, but I can't do that. And there will maybe sometimes there will be some space where I don't make any videos, because I also have to be creative when I write these scripts. And I don't like writing scripts for my videos. Actually, I don't. But it's just to make them a bit more focused about what I want to say, so it just doesn't get as long as these kind of videos. And that will happen when I make improvised videos, because then I just talk and talk, and people just don't want to see them talk. They also want something bit more focused sometimes. So if someone is watching this, I'm very happy for that. I sort of have got a little more followers or subscribers, it's called, and I get a bit more in the last 5-6 months than I did earlier, and that is probably also because of my Columbo videos. I know there's a lot of Columbo fans, but if you're watching this, I'm very grateful for that. I will continue. I also want to talk about all things in general. Now I've talked about my 5 favorite TV series, and they're very different from each other, like you have heard, but they really mean a lot to me in different ways, and I think you can I could continue talk about them. I'm curious to know if someone has watched the whole video here, what is your top 5 favorite TV series of all time? Can you really make that? That sometimes it's not very easy to do that. Sometimes you think, what about that I've just watched? That could be a great one. Maybe that will be one of my favorites one day. And sometimes it happens, you change them. But I'm just curious to know, because what I like about these 5 I've talked about is that they're very different from each other. Also from different, some of them from the 70s, some of them from 90s, and some of them are from more recent, so I'm curious again to know, what is your top 5 favorite series of all time? I will be back with another video one day when I have time. Maybe it will be a review, maybe it will be like this. But anyway, you must have a very nice day, and I will see you soon.